The story of Saddam Hussein can tell us many interesting things. In his 69 years of life, he presented himself to the world as the absolute dictator of Iraq, known for his extensive reforms and military actions against Iran. While in power and suffering from paranoia, he built hundreds of bunkers scattered throughout the country, where one could survive atomic bombings like those of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. His policy was solely focused on promoting his own power. Those who disliked living under Saddam's iron fist were imprisoned or executed. Saddam Hussein himself became the first dictator to be publicly hanged. The broadcast of his execution was televised worldwide and watched by millions of people. In this video, we will talk about this dictator. Welcome to the Hustler channel. Enjoy! Saddam Hussein Abd al-Majid al-Tikriti, that is his full name, was born in 1937 into a shepherd's family. His uncle took care of his upbringing, as his father had died before his birth, and his mother, devastated by the loss of her eldest son, fell into depression and refused to look at the newborn child. Saddam's relationship with his uncle, who became his stepfather, was neutral. Despite all the hardships, Saddam was lively and sociable, which attracted people to him. He dreamt of a military career that could lift him out of the depths of life. At the age of 19, young Hussein joined the Ba'ath Party, the Arab Socialist Ba'ath Party. The party's ideology was a volatile mix of socialism, pan-Arabism, and the struggle against imperialists. Saddam quickly rose through the ranks thanks to his military talents and personal bravery. His fame came from an assassination attempt on President Abd al-Karim Qasim, which essentially failed due to his own mistake. The future dictator opened fire on the president's car prematurely, thereby foiling the operation. However, Ba'athist propaganda turned the young activist into a hero. A legend emerged, portraying Hussein as a superhuman. It told tales of him gunning down policemen in droves, attempting to save a comrade, swimming across a river while wounded, digging out a bullet with a knife, and evading pursuit into Syria. 4 years later, when the regime of Qasim fell, Saddam returned to his homeland and became entangled in the whirlwind of political struggle. After a particularly impressive performance by the young politician, he caught the attention of party leader Michel Aflaq. Thus, Saddam acquired a powerful patron who helped him climb to the top of the party ladder and become the head of the security service. Furthermore, Saddam's authority within the Ba'ath Party continued to strengthen due to his courage, composure, and remarkable political talents. In 1968, after another coup brought the Ba'athists to power, Saddam assumed the second most important position in the country, becoming the vice president. Over the following years, Saddam built a reputation as an effective and progressive politician. He managed to unite Iraq, which was divided along ethnic, national, social, and religious lines. The nationalization of the oil industry, coupled with high oil prices, allowed Iraq to generate huge revenues from hydrocarbon sales. With Hussein's assistance, these revenues were directed towards the development of the social sphere, the construction of new schools, universities, hospitals, and the growth of local enterprises. During this period, he gained immense popularity among the people. Those who disliked living under Saddam's leadership faced imprisonment or execution. The Mukhabarat security service, headed by Saddam's half-brother, practiced torture on opposition members and dissidents. Hussein had a keen sense of the crowd's mood and skillfully played to its instincts, portraying himself as a defender of Arab interests and blaming crafty foreign enemies, Persians and Zionists, for the nation's problems. They were publicly hanged on the streets to entertain the public. It is estimated that at least 250,000 people died during his reign due to internal terror. Gradually, Saddam consolidated more power in his hands. From the mid-1970s, he effectively ruled Iraq single-handedly. On July 16, 1979, Saddam Hussein took the final step towards the pinnacle of power. Ahmed Hassan al-Bakr, who had remained the nominal leader until then, retired. At the age of 42, Hussein became the head of the Revolutionary Command Council, the president, and the prime minister of Iraq. Immediately after the coup, Saddam executed hundreds of his opponents within the Ba'ath Party. Western countries viewed Saddam as an eccentric but negotiable and independent leader. He actively maintained this reputation. The dictator had a special relationship with France. In September 1975, Saddam visited a Western country for the first and last time when he arrived in Paris and met with Prime Minister Jacques Chirac. According to some reports, Hussein financed Gaullists and, in return, enriched people close to Chirac, in exchange for the supply of French weapons and assistance in nuclear programs. In 1980, Hussein initiated a war with Iran that lasted for 8 years. The war resulted in significant material losses and immense human casualties for both sides, ultimately ending in a ceasefire based on pre-war conditions. The war caused considerable damage to Iraq's economy and led to a serious decline in the living standards of its citizens. Additionally, Iraq incurred significant debts to fund the war efforts from other nations, making Hussein's regime quite unstable. The leader of Iraq was desperately seeking a way out of the crisis. At that time, he recalled long-standing claims on Kuwait. During the Iran-Iraq War, Kuwait, openly concerned about Iran's strengthening and expansion of its influence in the region, provided Iraq with loans totaling $15 billion. However, after the war, relations between the two countries began to deteriorate. Iraq accused Kuwait of stealing oil from its border oil fields, referring to the use of Kuwaiti technology of slant drilling, which, by the way, was obtained by Kuwaitis from the United States. Kuwait had close ties with the Americans, which Hussein was well aware of. Nevertheless, on August 2, 1990, the Iraqi army launched an invasion of Kuwait. This moment would become a turning point in Iraq's history and Saddam's biography. The United States declared him an aggressor and unleashed its military power on Iraq. On January 17, 1991, multinational forces led by the United States began the Operation Desert Storm. After 5 weeks of intensive bombardment and a 4-day ground operation, Kuwait would be completely liberated. Additionally, up to 15% of Iraqi territory would be occupied. The ammunition of 42 divisions of the Iraqi army was destroyed or lost. Over 20,000 soldiers died, and over 70,000 were taken prisoner. Kurds in the north and Shiites in the south rose up in rebellion. Saddam lost control over 15 out of 18 provinces in the country. One more blow would have brought down the regime. Hussein, who was unquestioned in most parts of the country. A multinational coalition established no-fly zones in the south and north of Iraq, under the protection of which opponents of Hussein created their own governments. Saddam acquiesced to this and used even harsher methods to restore his power in the remaining territories. Iraq lived under sanctions, and the regime was required to fully eliminate its weapons of mass destruction. Hussein claimed that the requirements were being met and that he no longer possessed such weapons. The tragedy of September 11, 2001, gave the United States free rein for actions worldwide under the slogan of combating terrorism. The Iraqi leader was accused of having connections with Osama bin Laden and developing weapons of mass destruction. On March 20, 2003, U.S. forces once again entered Iraqi territory. On April 12, Baghdad came fully under the control of coalition forces. By May 1st, the resistance from loyalist factions to Hussein was finally broken. The country, deprived of its dictator, rapidly descended into chaos. Internal conflicts erupted into intertribal strife, where everyone hated everyone else. But the American occupiers were hated the most. Hussein, who fled Baghdad, no longer played any role in these processes. A real hunt was underway for him. On July 22, 2003, U.S. Special Forces attacked a villa in Uday, where Saddam's 2 sons, Uday and Qusay, were hiding. They caught the Husseins off guard and offered them to surrender, but they chose to fight. The assault lasted for 6 hours, during which the building was almost completely destroyed, and Saddam's sons were killed. On December 13, 2003, Saddam Hussein was captured. His final refuge was a basement in a village house near the town of Ad-Dar. The world was shocked by the footage of a dirty, unkempt old man with a huge beard, barely recognizable as the former dictator. However, once in captivity, Saddam cleaned himself up and appeared quite dignified during his trial, which began on October 19, 2005. This was not an international process. Hussein was convicted by his political opponents who had come to power in Iraq thanks to the occupiers. Already in the first episode, the massacre of 148 residents of the village of al-Dujail in 1982, Saddam Hussein was found guilty and sentenced to death. In the early morning of December 30th, 2006, the former Iraqi leader was hanged in the headquarters of the Iraqi military intelligence located in the Al-Qadra neighborhood of Baghdad, al-Hadra. Those present at the execution reported that Hussein was calm. However, the death of Saddam Hussein, the first state leader to be executed in the 21st century, did not bring happiness or peace to Iraq. That was the story of Saddam Hussein, the Iraqi president who was publicly hanged. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and watch other videos. Also, consider supporting the channel on Patreon. This was Hustler. Until next time.